okay, so you had been doing it for about 10 years. You have soon to be 3 company-owned locations, all in the greater Boston area. What led you to think about franchising your company?
So I'm going to be entirely honest with you, Frank. I built Pure Glow to scale. So, I know that, I'll hear from incredible, inspirational leaders of many kinds. And oftentimes they'll say, I never imagined this would take off or this would be so big. For me, I'm really, really, I've always been very passionate about health and wellness. I've always been very interested and passionate about, growing a brand, creating a brand, and doing something that really helps people and then makes people feel good.
Mhm.
And so it really, as soon as I kind of was turned on and realized that, hey, there's a tremendous opportunity here, I really evaluated this opportunity from every angle and decided to build something from the very beginning that would be scalable. And that's been a big part of, sort of what led us to franchising and made things a really sort of natural transition. But sort of part of what drives me and what really excites me is being able to reproduce and perfect and and be able to offer this in multiple locations.
That's
And
awesome.
scale.
Lauren, it's very refreshing in this day and age in franchising where you see, I call it this new golden age of franchising where it's all about speed of how many franchises people can sell. And it's not necessarily the right way to do it. I love that you've taken your time, that you have 3, soon to be now 3 company-owned locations to get the systems and processes, having it done right, because once we bring our franchise owners on, they're our partners for a very, very long time. It is a marriage, and we want to make sure that we set them up to succeed. And it's not about how many franchises we can sell out of the gate. I commend you so much for that.
Yeah, and it's funny because as I built a team, really even kind of going back a little bit, I was self-funded up until just last year. So and we'd had clients for so many years, like, why don't you open in New York? Why don't you open in California? Why don't you open everywhere? And really that demand, we've had people for years asking, is Pure Glow a franchise? And then until we became one, it always sort of made me laugh as, that's something that I'm considering in the future. But one of the reasons I was so hesitant to bring on institutional capital was to have that pressure and to be forced to grow at this unsustainable pace that really didn't align with me in terms of how do we really structure this to be lasting and make sure that we really have the support structure. And so when I was introduced to and began to get to know our lead investor, Mary Platt Klein Pacino, she very much, understood how much is really required behind the scenes. She was willing to get involved and allow us to grow slow and learn. And so, that's been a tremendous opportunity. And, and the team that I have recruited that surrounds me is, has tremendous franchise experience, but also, I think one thing that really unites us is exactly what you said, and this desire to really, create this incredible structure behind the scenes so that we can support. Maybe it will take us a year and a half, 2 years, but then we'll be able to really kind of turn the switch on. So, we kind of talk about it internally, going slow so that we can go fast.
Absolutely. So to bring the audience up to speed, you have 10 franchises that are now committed to open. And, Lauren, I think about our audience of fellow founders that are emerging and, they're growing their brands. And if you don't mind being as so transparent in sharing with the audience what your thoughts were about bringing on an investor. So you mentioned that you bootstrapped it at first, but then you brought somebody on. So let's kind of circle back to that. I want to hear what went through your mind when you were bootstrapping it and deciding what made you decide to bring somebody on, and where did you find this person, and what's the role now that they play?
Yeah, great questions. So I think, the decision to bring on outside capital, there's so much there's so many personal questions to ask yourself, but I think a lot of it is, what is really the end goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And then based on that question, how do you plan to get there? And based on that answer, really what sort of capital, what amount of capital is required, and, what are sort of the expectations around that? What are you willing to give up? What are you, and then I think from there, asking yourself a lot of questions like, what is my ability to create a team? What is my ability to attract experienced, successful franchise, executives that, are really going to allow us to do what we need to do. So a huge part of seeking investment last year was to be able to attract some top talent who has, not only done it before, but has done it incredibly successfully, has the playbook, has a strong network, but also has a really strong understanding of, the right way to do things. And again, that, short-term success is really not the way to go. So truly, I think that it really starts with, it's quite a personal question. And then from there, there are a number of ways to raise capital. It doesn't necessarily have to be, institutional money. It can be, it can be friends and family. It can be angels. It can be, potentially a loan. And, there are a variety of different ways of structuring things. But I think that really kind of sitting down and being honest with yourself about, sort of what steps would need to be taken, how exactly would you spend that cash? And I think part of that question too is franchising is a very different world, right, Frank, than,
Right.
Just sort of starting something on your own, right? It has its own set of rules and, regulations and arrangements. And, franchising is much more costly to get into and set up and structure correctly than something like licensing, right? So I think that really being very clear on, what do you want to do? Is franchising kind of the best fit for you? And then sort of beginning that exercise with, what will it take to kind of get us to the next step or a place where we might be able to be profitable, without having to raise further funds.
Well, you realized obviously very quickly that you were really not in the tanning industry, but you were really in the franchise industry, right? By wanting to bring on the right people, because like you said, franchising is totally different. And you really want to surround yourself with folks that have been there, done that before.
Yeah. And for us, so much of the magic of Pure Glow is the experience that we provide for our clients. Hospitality is a core value at Pure Glow. And so, for me, franchising was such a natural fit for our business type because, really internally as a franchisor, we want to handle the innovation. We want to handle a lot of the marketing and the advertising and the operations and provide this incredible sort of, manual and roadmap. We really want our franchisees to focus on taking incredible care of their team, taking incredible care of their clients, their community, and really letting their personality and their skills and their know-how shine. And I think that type of arrangement of the franchisor franchisee arrangement is so interesting and fascinating to me. And so if you are a business where experience is such a big part of what you do and your special sauce, I think that it made a lot of sense to kind of seek this sort of way to scale.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.